Hi, hello everybody in Bangladesh, and thank you for inviting me to do this short video on how are we managing COVID patients here in Edinburgh. Well, we are in a university hospital, and everything is now COVID, and as the respiratory department, we have a big role in managing these patients. However, everybody else is on the job of managing patients. So basically nowadays the hospital is divided into a COVID area and a clean area. We manage the respiratory COVID positive patients in a COVID ward. All patients are coming to hospital in which there is a suspicion of COVID. They need admission to hospital. They come to an assessment area. They get a swab, and if the swab is positive, or even if it's negative, there is high suspicion of COVID, they are moved to the COVID positive ward. If they are negative and low suspicion of COVID, they are transferred to the clean area, where we manage them together with the usual respiratory patients that we normally manage in the hospital. I have to say that most of the patients that we normally see are not coming to hospital. I wonder whether you have the same experience. Patients that would normally come to hospital, and we have a 43 bed ward, which is not full at all, which is normally the case. So there is a lower rate of patients without COVID that are coming to hospital. Regarding the COVID patients in the COVID area, these people receive supportive treatment with oxygen in most of the cases, if they need to. The criteria for oxygen are still the same as normally. If there's no underlying lung condition, we aim at a saturation of 94. In people with COPD, for example, or other chronic respiratory conditions, we aim at 88 to 92%. We give anticoagulation in prophylaxis doses. We are not in the ward yet providing enhanced anticoagulation prophylaxis as other places in the world are doing, or even our own intensive care unit. We may give antibiotics to patients if we feel that there is superadded bacterial infection. We use procalcitonin circulating levels to define the likelihood of a bacterial infection, and in those with a high procalcitonin, we tend to give antibiotics, and we tend to not give it to those with a low procalcitonin. We are doing self-proning in the ward on patients that are not yet bad enough to go to the ICU unit, and those that are receiving oxygen in the ward. We attempt to self-prone these patients, and we are seeing that many of them improve the gas exchange just by self-proning in a normal hospital bed. If patients deteriorate, they are assessed by the intensive care team, and they will admit those patients that are requiring care beyond ward level, and they are attributable to escalation to intubation. If patients have severe comorbidities or underlying diseases in which we don't believe that admitting to the ICU would make any difference to them, we tend to manage these patients in the ward, and those patients will not be accepted to enter the intensive care unit to get more aggressive treatment. So those patients will continue to be managed in the ward. If a patient is very severe and require intensive care admission, patients would go to the intensive care. Normally those are patients in which the requirement of supplemental oxygen is high. We are seeing patients that are tolerating very well severe hypoxia, and we don't quite understand why that is. So patients with high requirement of oxygen are admitted to the intensive care unit. They normally give these patients enhanced dose of prophylactic anticoagulation, so probably around double the normal dose of prophylaxis that we normally would give. And there is a trial of CPAP in these patients to try to avoid intubation. And if this fails, so if patients do not improve the gas exchange, patients are intubated. What we are seeing is that once the patient is intubated, they do go through a prolonged admission in the intensive care. And those patients that survive normally end up being tracheostomized during the ICU admission. Once extubated, there is the process of closing the tracheostomy, and when they are again well to step down to ward level, they come back to us. And what we are seeing normally is that these patients have suffered from prolonged admissions in the ICU, and they suffer from the ICU post admission syndrome. And we are seeing a lot of weight loss, muscle mass loss, respiratory muscle weakness, delirium, and these are patients that will have a prolonged admission in the ward, and at some point we are able to transfer these patients to rehabilitation units in hospitals that are not for acute management but more set for rehabilitation in these kind of patients. So this is more or less the journey of a patient that is diagnosed with COVID in Edinburgh. So I hope this helped you to see what we are doing here, and I'm very happy to comment on other issues if you want me to do so. Happy to receive comments and eventually address them in another video. Okay, well, keep safe, and yeah, and see you soon, I hope. Bye.